playing prison ball. Here it says, as she is recovering from her season-ending knee injury, Cunningham shared that she underwent a major change this offseason. Previously listed at 165 pounds, revealed that she is now down to 148.5 pounds. She says she needs to gain 5 pounds. All right. Cunningham lost 16 pounds, which is staggering for a professional athlete, as she said. However, she intends to put on at least 5 pounds.
In the hyper-competitive, unforgiving ecosystem of professional sports, the arrival of a generational, paradigm-shifting superstar does not merely increase television ratings or inflate sponsorship portfolios. It fundamentally alters the survival blueprint for every player occupying a roster spot. When an offensive engine like Caitlin Clark enters an organization, she does not simply improve it, she restructures its physical geometry, its cardiovascular demands, and the exact biomechanical specifications required to remain playable. This is no longer stagnant half-court basketball. It becomes a relentless, high-velocity endurance test. And in this accelerated economy, every player faces a binary decision. Either resist adaptation and gradually fade into irrelevance, or recalibrate your physiology, refine your tactical identity, and attach your professional arc to the gravitational pull of a transcendent star. Within this evolving structure, 2 Indiana Fever players have made decisive adjustments, Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull. Their responses illustrate both biological adaptation and strategic positioning within a rapidly shifting competitive economy. To understand the physical demands of this system, consider Sophie Cunningham's off-season transformation. Throughout her career, Cunningham built a reputation as an enforcer, a tone setter willing to absorb contact, initiate physicality, and protect teammates. At 165 pounds, she possessed the structural mass necessary for screens, interior battles, and the grind of traditional half-court play. But the Caitlin Clark offensive model
To cut down on weight, because she know Caitlin Clark has cut down on weight. Caitlin Clark got rid of all that The Rock and Fast 5 muscle. She's back to Iowa skinny CC. You know what that means? She's going to be running like a track star. Sophie Cunningham knows I got to be in shape to run with Caitlin this year. Y'all remember when Aaliyah Boston's first year with the Indiana Fever, when Caitlin Clark got there? She knew second year, oh no, I got to come in slimmer because this girl is going to be running. Sophie Cunningham realized the same thing. I'm going to cut down about 10 pounds. I was already in good shape. I'm going to come in even better shape. I'm going to come down about 10 pounds lighter. I'm going to be in better shape to run up and down nonstop with Caitlin Clark. This is great news for Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever.
And changes that calculus. Cunningham reduced her weight from 165 pounds to 148.5, nearly 16 pounds of body mass. For a professional athlete already conditioned at an elite level, that is a substantial physiological adjustment. This decision coincides with her recovery from a torn medial collateral ligament. From a biomechanical perspective, reducing mass lowers joint load during acceleration and deceleration, particularly on a rehabilitating knee. In a transition-heavy offense where pace and repetition increase dramatically, excess load compounds risk. This weight reduction is not symbolic, it is structural optimization. Clark's transition passing compresses defensive reaction time. Wings who leak out immediately after a rebound are rewarded with precision outlet passes that create uncontested scoring opportunities. But that system only functions if the wing outruns her defender. Speed becomes currency, conditioning becomes leverage. Cunningham appears to have studied the previous season's pace adaptation curve. Aaliyah Boston initially struggled to maintain tempo before adjusting her conditioning to match the system. Cunningham.
I'll tell you this, sidebar, Stephanie White, Lexie Hull better be a starter this year. She better be a starter this year. Don't try what you pulled last year, starting Dewana Bonners and all these other people. No, Lexie Hull needs to be a starter on this team this year. Don't play games. Don't play games.
Has attempted to eliminate that adjustment window entirely. By returning leaner and more mobile, she is repositioning herself from stationary enforcer to transition weapon, without abandoning her perimeter efficiency, including her 43% shooting from 3 last season. The second layer of adaptation is strategic lineup construction under new head coach Stephanie White. Coaching philosophy can either amplify or neutralize Clark's offensive pravity. A slower, isolation-oriented rotation risks constricting spacing and diminishing tempo. A spacing-centric model built around athletic, low-usage perimeter defenders maximizes systemic efficiency. This is where Lexie Hull becomes tactically significant. Hull profiles as a modern 3-and-D wing. Perimeter defense, off-ball movement, efficient shooting, minimal usage demands. When paired with Clark and Cunningham, spacing expands and defensive assignments become strained. Offensive geometry improves measurably with shooters who do not disrupt ball movement. If rotation decisions prioritize isolation scoring over spacing integrity, the offense compresses. If Hall starts and maintains heavy minutes, the transition ecosystem remains intact. This is less about favoritism and more about structural compatibility. Off the court, Hall's strategy may be equally instructive. Historically, non-superstar WNBA players rely primarily on salary and secondary endorsements. Hull's launch of a direct-to-consumer cosmetics brand designed for high-performance athletes represents a different approach, monetizing proximity to attention rather than waiting for corporate intermediaries. Playing alongside a high-visibility superstar generates organic impressions at scale. In digital marketing terms, this reduces customer acquisition costs dramatically. Instead of purchasing attention through advertising, Hull leverages the built-in.
Hull has also been building her off-court profile. Now, this is a part of the Caitlin Clark effect. Make no mistake about it. We've seen Sophie Cunningham in Nash and Arby's commercials. She was on the damn NFL Tonight. All types of stuff. All types of stuff. That is due to the Caitlin Clark effect in being on Caitlin Clark's team. Make no mistake about that. Make no mistake about it. Here it says, in early 2025, she co-founded a cosmetics company called
amplification effect created by national broadcasts, social media engagement, and fan ecosystem expansion surrounding Clark. This is an example of halo economics in practice. One player drives macro attention, adjacent players capture micro markets. The broader implication is not resentment or politics, it is adaptation. Pace is increasing, skill requirements are tightening, brand leverage is becoming decentralized. Players who recalibrate both their physiology and their business models are positioning themselves for sustainability in a rapidly modernizing league. Sophie Cunningham's weight loss reflects a biomechanical recalculation. Lexie Hull's brand launch reflects an economic recalculation. Both decisions signal awareness that the structure of opportunity has shifted. The central question is not whether the system will slow down, it is whether every participant can accelerate fast enough to remain essential within it.
What makes this transformation even more significant is the cascading effect it has on every positional role within the system. When the primary ball handler operates at extreme pace, the physical demands do not remain isolated to one individual. They propagate outward. Every wing must sprint harder. Every forward must recover faster. Every defender must sustain longer high-intensity intervals. Fatigue tolerance becomes one of the most valuable yet invisible currencies on the roster. This is where conditioning stops being a background attribute and becomes a frontline competitive advantage. Historically, professional basketball allowed for specialization that did not always require elite transition endurance. Certain players could conserve energy, operate within confined half-court spaces, and deploy strength or size advantages in slower, controlled sequences. But pace-dominant offensive engines eliminate those comfort zones. When transition frequency increases, there are fewer opportunities for passive participation. Every possession demands full engagement.
Caitlin Clark's presence accelerates decision cycles. Defensive hesitation is punished instantly. Help defenders must commit earlier. Recovery windows shrink. And most critically, teammates must anticipate rather than react. This anticipation requirement fundamentally changes roster value hierarchy. Players who process quickly, move efficiently, and maintain shooting accuracy under cardiovascular stress increase exponentially in importance. Players who require time, isolation touches, or reduced pace environments experience a proportional decline in utility. This does not reflect talent deficiency, it reflects systemic incompatibility. Sophie Cunningham's weight reduction can be interpreted as a proactive alignment with this reality. Lower body mass improves acceleration efficiency. It reduces oxygen consumption during repeated sprints. It enhances recovery speed between possessions. These marginal gains compound over the course of a 40-minute game and an entire season. There is also a psychological component. Adaptation sends signals, not just to coaches, but to teammates and management. It communicates commitment to systemic integration. It demonstrates awareness of tactical direction. Players who visibly reshape their bodies to align with organizational trajectory position themselves as cooperative assets rather than resistant variables. This perception can influence rotational trust. Coaches rely heavily on predictability. They favor players whose physical readiness aligns with intended tempo. A player visibly optimized for speed is more likely to be deployed in high-pace lineups. Availability is not merely about health, it is about compatibility with strategic tempo. Lexie Hull's value intersects precisely at this point of compatibility. Hull's defensive motor allows her to absorb perimeter assignments without compromising transition readiness. Defensive stops become offensive catalysts in pace-driven systems. A single deflection can initiate a fast break. A single contested shot can produce an outlet opportunity. Defensive endurance directly translates into offensive opportunity volume. Hull's shooting efficiency amplifies this effect. Spacing creates invisible pressure. Defenders hesitate to leave reliable shooters. That hesitation creates fractional increases in driving lanes, passing angles, and transition seams. These fractions accumulate. Basketball at elite levels is often determined not by dramatic mismatches, but by microscopic spatial advantages repeated consistently. A shooter positioned 2 feet wider forces defensive rotation earlier. That earlier rotation creates a half-second delay elsewhere. That delay creates a scoring window. Hull's presence contributes to this chain reaction. There is also durability value. Systems built on pace cannot afford frequent substitution disruptions. Conditioning depth preserves lineup continuity. Players who sustain performance without excessive recovery interruptions become structurally stabilizing forces. Continuity enhances chemistry. Clark's passing style relies heavily on predictive trust. She delivers passes before teammates complete their movement. This requires synchronized expectation. Teammates must arrive at precise spatial coordinates at precise moments. This synchronization improves with repetition. Frequent lineup stability accelerates this process. Hull's willingness to operate without ball dominance further strengthens this dynamic. Usage neutrality reduces offensive friction. Ball movement remains fluid. Offensive rhythm remains uninterrupted. In contrast, high-usage isolation play introduces temporal drag. It slows possession velocity. It allows defenses to reset. It interrupts transition momentum. This distinction is not philosophical, it is mathematical. Possession speed correlates with defensive disorganization frequency. Faster possessions increase probability of defensive misalignment. Misaligned defenses produce higher efficiency scoring outcomes. Clark's presence increases misalignment frequency. Teammates who enhance that misalignment through spacing, speed, and shooting become force multipliers. This multiplier effect extends beyond gameplay into economic structures.
Attention economics now plays a decisive role in professional sports. Visibility generates opportunity. Opportunity generates revenue diversification. Social media amplification allows players to monetize niche audiences directly. Traditional gatekeepers, corporate sponsors, advertising agencies, broadcast intermediaries, no longer fully control access. Hull's cosmetics brand exemplifies decentralized monetization. Direct-to-consumer models eliminate institutional dependency. Brand authenticity increases conversion efficiency. Fans who associate players with performance credibility transfer trust into purchasing behavior. This trust transfer is powerful. Clark's visibility accelerates ecosystem expansion. Teammates positioned within that ecosystem inherit visibility spillover. Strategic positioning allows them to convert visibility into independent business leverage. This represents a structural shift in athlete economics. Previously, only superstar athletes possessed sufficient exposure to sustain independent ventures. Now, proximity to attention hubs provides secondary exposure pathways. Players who recognize this dynamic early can construct parallel career infrastructures. This reduces long-term financial vulnerability. Professional athletic careers remain inherently finite. Injury risk, performance variability, and roster volatility create uncertainty. Diversified revenue streams stabilize long-term financial security. Hull's business venture reflects anticipatory planning. It also reflects confidence in sustained visibility. Brand launches require long-term audience engagement assumptions. Launch timing often correlates with projected visibility growth trajectories. Clark's continued presence increases probability of sustained ecosystem attention. This reinforces teammate brand viability. Simultaneously, Cunningham's transformation strengthens her on-court retention probability. Availability and compatibility increase coaching reliance. Coaching reliance increases playing time. Playing time increases visibility. Visibility enhances endorsement probability. This creates a reinforcing feedback loop. Physical adaptation strengthens athletic relevance. Athletic relevance strengthens economic opportunity. Economic opportunity incentivizes further adaptation. Players who enter this loop early accumulate compound advantage. There is also a competitive filtering effect. As pace increases across the league, adaptation becomes mandatory rather than optional. Younger athletes entering professional ranks are increasingly conditioned within pace-centric developmental systems. Veteran players face structural pressure to recalibrate or risk replacement. This accelerates generational transition. Teams increasingly prioritize mobility, shooting versatility, and endurance scalability. Positional rigidity declines. Hybrid skill sets increase value. Clark's presence accelerates this league-wide evolution. Other teams must adapt defensively. Defensive adaptation often requires offensive adjustment. Offensive adjustment requires personnel adjustment. Systemic change propagates outward from singular disruptive forces. Historically, certain players trigger structural shifts. Their influence extends beyond individual statistics. They alter optimal strategy frameworks. Clark's transition acceleration, passing range, and scoring gravity reshape defensive spacing assumptions. Defenders must pick up earlier. Defensive formations stretch further. Energy expenditure increases. Fatigue accumulation becomes a strategic weapon. Teams capable of sustaining high pace longer gain late-game advantage. Opponents experience decision degradation under fatigue. Shooting accuracy declines. Defensive reaction time slows. Conditioned teams exploit this degradation. This makes conditioning not just preparatory, but strategically offensive. Cunningham's weight reduction directly supports sustained pace endurance. Hull's conditioning supports defensive persistence. Combined, they strengthen systemic tempo continuity.
Coaching alignment remains the final structural variable. Stephanie White's rotational decisions will determine whether systemic potential reaches full realization. Strategic clarity enhances execution efficiency. Rotational inconsistency introduces uncertainty. Uncertainty disrupts timing synchronization. Trust between system and personnel must remain reciprocal. Players who adapt expect utilization aligned with adaptation. Coaches who recognize adaptation maximize systemic efficiency. Alignment produces competitive stability. Misalignment produces performance volatility. Ultimately, this transformation represents more than tactical adjustment. It reflects evolutionary pressure within professional sports ecosystems. Disruptive talents accelerate environmental change. Surrounding participants must evolve to remain viable. Sophie Cunningham's physiological recalibration and Lexie Hull's strategic positioning illustrate adaptive intelligence within this new environment. They are not resisting systemic acceleration, they are synchronizing with it. And in accelerated environments, synchronization determines survival, relevance, and long-term leverage.